Number nine, 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 number nine.
Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. M-O-A-I doth sway my life.
M-O-A-I, M-O-A-I, is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I, 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 is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I. You say M, I say O, you say A, I say I don't know. Oh, I don't know. You say I, and I say M-O. M-O-A-I, M-O-A-I, is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I, 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 is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I. I say M, but I may mean O. You say A, I'm Malvolio. You say I, and I say M-O. M-O-A-I, M-O-A-I, is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I, 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 is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I, 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 is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I.
If this fall into thy hand, revolve.
Hey Malvolio, hey Malvolio, hey Malvolio, hey Malvolio, hey Malvolio, hey Malvolio. Hey Malvolio.
How now, Malvolio? Oh.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to podcast number 9. As you know by now, every other Sunday, we peer behind the mask and ask, who was that masked man? Was it this guy, Edward de Vere? Or was it this guy, Sir Francis Bacon? Or maybe Marlowe? Or maybe some other combination of all the above and maybe others hidden even more in the shadows. The problem, as Hamlet says, puzzles the will. But as you know by now, everything the bard wrote needs to be viewed forwards and backwards, and then revolved around in your mind until you have a renewed perspective. Today's masterclass dives deeper into this poetic device of reversal the author uses to let us know he's really saying will's the puzzle. And I'm going to be using a modern day metaphor to illustrate that. It was very similar in the world of pop music when I was growing up. Beatles were, in fact, suspected of hiding all sorts of clues in their music, which could supposedly be discovered by their intrepid fans who went to great lengths to play their records backwards in hopes of finding coded references. Now, whether or not those rumors were true, and I don't want to upset any Paul is Dead fans by weighing in one way or the other, but the fact remains that Hello Goodbye happened to be the perfect tune out of which to create this week's promo video, so I just couldn't resist. We are going to look at Malvolio's code in great depth today because, as with most podcasts, we look into the Sonnets calendar to see if there's anything significant hiding there. And yes, today's is a doozy, and I'll get to that in just a minute. First, I need to give a rapid-fire recap of just some of basics so that newcomers can get up to speed. Things you need to know. This is me in the church at Stratford, where Shakespeare's buried. Behind me is the grave. Looks like this. Up above my head is the monument. And that has coded messages in it, as does the gravestone. About 12 feet to the back, there's the altar. Looks like this. Behind there was, well, it was not there. It had disappeared years and years and years before during the Reformation, but I believe the Sonnets has been hidden in there in the original hand. Behind there we had a banner up in order that I could scan the altar. We'll show you a little bit of that later, but I'm really just topping and tailing and going quickly through some things that you need to know in order to understand the basic premise. Here's one sonnet, Sonnet 121, in which Shakespeare says, "Know I am that I am." That's the name of God given to Moses on Mount Sinai. "And they that level at my abuses reckon up their own. I may be straight, though they themselves be bevel by their rank thoughts. My deeds must not be shown." All these are Freemasonic references. Level, reckon, straight, bevel, rank. And he says at the end of it, "My deeds must not be shown." There are some in the secret society who are insisting that he must not be known for who he truly is. And that all delves back into, literally on Mount Sinai, Moses sees the burning bush. In the burning bush, God speaks to him, tells him his name, Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh, which translated is "I am that I am." It's 3 Hebrew words that begin with alephs, and in those days there was a form of cipher called an Atbash cipher, which, turning the Hebrew alphabet backwards on itself, instead of going left to right, going right to left, aleph becomes tav. And so these 3 alephs become 3 tavs, and the Greek equivalent is 3 taus, and all of that adds up to what is now known today as the Triple Tau, a secret symbol used by Freemasons to indicate the name of God. Here are you see the steps of Freemasonry. Up on the left, Scottish Rite. On the right, the York Rite. They're sometimes intermingled. We're going to be dealing today with, right at the very top, is this 33rd degree level, which is, well, I must preface actually what I'm going to say to you, because I'm not a Freemason. And so I have to say that anything that I've researched, and much of that is probably subtly different from the truth, because of course Masons are sworn to oaths of secrecy. But that little sound that you just heard, that's the Masons coming in now, I believe, and they've got a secret message for me. Oh, okay. I see. So, well, if I've got any of this wrong, and there are any true Grandmaster Freemasons in our audience, and if that was you trying to reach me just now, please connect through the regular channels of alan@tobeornottobe.org. I'd be happy to hear from you if you've got any other idea as to what might be the truth behind these things. Because as I say, these are secret societies which work on oaths. What one can research, as far as I know, 32nd level of Scottish Rite Freemasonry is the highest level one can work towards individually. And so that is called the Master of the Royal Secret. Underneath that, one under, is the 28th degree. It's called Knight of the Sun. And we're going to be dealing with those today. I'm going to be telling you something about how significant those are in the Shakespeare codes that have been left to us. On the other side here, on the York Rite side, there's the Royal Arch Freemasonry, 4th level, and that says Royal Arch, 4th degree. Now, the triple tau has a symbolism that is really representing the 3 tau crosses on Calvary. And those 3 tau crosses are not Latinized crosses like we tend to have seen and thought of as Jesus being crucified on. The Romans did it much cheaper, just 2 blocks of wood, tau crosses. So the 3 tau crosses, it is thought, were meant to be represented by this triple tau. And the Freemasons said, put that into a symbol that looks like 3 T's all joined together at the base of the stipes of the cross. And so they form a TH, 3 T's that look like a TH, and they have 3 Latin meanings, secret things that are coordinated and communicated, rather, to the Freemasons during their initiations. So one is clavis ad thesaurem, means key to the treasure. One is theca ubi res preciosa deponitur, place where the precious thing is concealed. The other is templum Hierosolyma, or Solomon's temple, first temple of Jerusalem. As you've seen in other presentations, there's a triple tau right there on the gravestone of Shakespeare. Now, the gravestone doesn't have Shakespeare's name on it. The only name on it is Jesus, right in the center there. And those 3 taus are forming a cross with his name on top. There's a couple of THs, but they're ligatured together. They're not separate letters TH. So they're very much similar to that whole specially ligatured symbol that is the triple tau. And here they are on the gravestone, meaning key to the treasure, place where the precious thing is concealed. Very interesting. On the monument, same thing. All the THs on the monument are not separate letter THs. There's 10 of them, like this, all ligatured together like that secret symbol. And then in the middle, there's 2 other ligatured letters that never occur ligatured together, M and E. So what is this saying? I am that I am, me. They're in a 4-2-6 pattern, reading left to right. But if you want to do the Hebraic fashion, right to left, it's a 6-2-4 pattern, and that is very, very significant, just as the whole MOAIIAO, which I will be explaining shortly, is mirror imaging. These codes are 4-2-6-6-2-4, mirror imaging each other. Shakespeare's sonnets, the cover looks like this. It's got geometry on it. You will have seen that in past presentations. If not, look them up. Not going to go into that today. Next page is the dedication to the sonnets, in which we see 3 inverted triangle shapes of 6 lines, 2 lines, and 4 lines. This is John Rollett's work from a couple of decades ago, where he suspected that because there were dots between every word, that there was some significance. We were supposed to count the words in a 6-2-4 pattern. What hasn't been shown before is that if you add these up, all the dots up to this line here, which is the end of the dedication, then under it is the TT, which is supposedly Thomas Thorpe's signature, the publisher. There are 28 dots and 28 words. But that represents this level that I've already shown you, the 28th level of Freemasonry, Knight of the Sun. But if you count the hyphens in these words, ever living and well wishing, and also then the 2 dots at the end and TT, then you have altogether 32 of these dots and hyphens and 32 separate words, representing the 32nd degree level master of the Royal Secret. Rollett noticed that if you put, you counted the 6th word, the 2nd, the 4th, so you 6-2-4, 6-2-4, 6-2. It gives you this phrase. These sonnets all by Ever, the 4th T. Ever was a well-known reversal of the name Vere, who was one of the leading candidates at the time, and still is, assumed to be Shakespeare by alternative theorists. And so, and Edward de Vere's name itself is 624 letters. So it was thought, well, perhaps it's saying these sonnets all by E. Vere. But the fourth T had everybody stumped, and it didn't go much further, and Rollitt retracted his whole thesis at that time. Triple tau is the three T's, and so the fourth T does end up having its own symbol, and I will show you that shortly. So that's caught up on a little of the backstory. All the Shakespeare sonnets tend to be about, if there's any one theme about them at all, it tends to be about time, eternal time and temporal time. And so I had the intuition a few years ago to lay them out like a calendar. So here's a 365-day calendar. If you lay the sonnets on top of it, there are 154 sonnets. So sonnet 1 would be January 1, sonnet 32 would be February 1, etc. It ends at June 3rd with all 154. Then you just revolve them through again, send them through again, they land here, send them through again. And now if this is the system that the writer is actually using, then he's got a map on which any day of the year that he wants to reference something having happened, then it has a sonnet number attached to it. And it turns out that if you then read those sonnet numbers that are referencing particular events in the author's life, then you can read them from that new perspective, and they seem to have something esoterically hidden in them about that particular event. It's not that all the sonnets are a calendar, but specific dates like the Queen's birth and the Queen's death and her funeral and things that would be important to him. So what is today's date? Today's date is December 6th, and so looking at that map, that's sonnet 32. That's why I've chosen this subject for today, because that's 32nd level, remember, of Freemasonry. Coded dates such as these, again, I've gone into them at great length, but just to top and tail it, say 116. Sonnet 116 is overlaying a certain date. Now, it happens to be, I chose that one because it's the only sonnet number that is misnumbered. Sonnets go 114, 115, 119. It should be 116, of course, and then 117. Obviously, the 6 has been turned around into a 9. That happens to be a device that we see quite a lot. The 6 and the 9 revolved around on to itself. It's the Cancer symbol. So 116 is the sonnet number, but it references this day on the calendar, which is April 26, which is 426, and 426 happens to be the date of Shaxpere's baptism. We call him Shaxpere, the man from Stratford, because that's kind of the way he spelt his name. It was spelt variously. There are only 6 signatures in existence, and each one is spelled differently and looks like he can't write at all. But there's never a long A shake sound. It's Shaxpere. There's his name. There are 3 crosses, supposedly by his illiterate parents and family, but perhaps it's just 3 crosses. Maybe it's a hint. Okay, so that 426 represents the baptism of Shaxpere. What's its reverse? Because, right, 426 read the other way is 624. 624 is June 24th, and that sonnet is has a reference as well, which I'm not going to go into today because you've seen that in other things. Now, I just want to mention that every podcast so far we have given away a t-shirt or a book to someone answering a question correctly. And last week we gave out a prize, a t-shirt to it was to Christian Altroff, who was the first with the answer. But then, it's been very frustrating because if you're looking on a phone and checking, and we had several people checking, who got the answer first, then we look at the computer And one computer doesn't give a timestamp, and another computer does give a timestamp. Facebook seems to be very, very shaky on this, and we looked at the timestamps later and found that another person, Hannah Stewart, had got the right answer also, and she was maybe a second, 1 second ahead of the winner that we announced, Christian. And so we're sending her a t-shirt and with an apology. But until we get that sorted out with Facebook, it just doesn't seem right to be tempting fate with that. So Mark Zuckerberg, if you're listening, I know you're a big fan of the podcast. Please write in the comments that you apologize for your messed up time stamping. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure he understands. So instead of that, we're going to have a Q&A at some point after the main presentation. And so get your questions ready. Lots of people have asked that. Can we have a Q&A? Can there be some back and forth? It's a little harder on a online situation where we can't hear you, but if you have some questions, type them in. Alejandro will pipe them across to me over here, and I will check them out and we'll try and answer them at the end of the presentation. So that's something for you to be thinking of if you want something answered, so long as it's pertinent to the subject. I don't give psychological counseling. Thank you. So, looking at all of the works of Shakespeare, we're going to get to that whole MOAI-IAOM thing because it's utterly stunning and fascinating. But if you think of it, 624, 426 is very important also. And the 624 is the June 24th, and that is the day that Edward de Vere, one of the leading candidates to be Shakespeare, died, left. I suspect that he faked his death and did not die on that date. But anyway, I'm going to show you some evidence that seems to point to that, at least to point to what the whole subterfuge is centrally about. Now, if he's going to write something, if you think about it, about that date, because it's sacred and central to the entire coding, that date is the feast day of St. John the Baptist. And in England, in that time, on the pagan calendar, that was the summer solstice. Now, we know the calendar was out of whack, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But still, it was celebrated at that time. And, well, really, that holiday, I need to tell you, it was about, it was one of the most important holidays that there were in terms of, like, Christmas. That holiday of the Midsummer's Eve going into Midsummer's Day was celebrated with revels and partying and dancing and feasting, and then the next day all was, it's the feast day of St. John the Baptist. Next day we'll be in church, and and we were sorry for the fact that we had such a riotous time yesterday. Well, if he's going to be literally telling us about this festival on Midsummer's Eve and night, obviously he wrote a play about that, didn't he? Right. So A Midsummer Night's Dream is going to be having within it a lot of clues, and I'm going to show you a few of them. Now, the other aspect of this is I'm going to be using a lot of music, because the whole thing about Shakespeare, I can tell you this, people in general don't know that in Shakespeare's time, he used a lot of music. He was an experimentalist and departed from past traditions completely. He had a lot of music in his plays, but of course we don't know today what that music was. He gives references. There are some little ballads and songs. We know that they were popular. They would have been known in the taverns and being sung by balladeers, and so people would know them. But of course, nothing was recorded, and sheet music wasn't yet all up to par to where they were making records of this. So we don't know what the music was. We've lost it. He may be referencing just a line or two somewhere that's from a popular ballad at the time, and it's gone to us. We don't know, but we do know that he literally has well over 100 references to specific songs and music in the plays, and so it's just very clear that he was using music in the way that we do today. You know, you hear a song and it just triggers something for you. And so I'm trying to give an impression of what that would be like if Shakespeare were alive today and doing his plays. He'd be doing musicals. I think he would. So I've injected a lot of music into this, and frankly, it's going to get probably flagged by YouTube's algorithms, or definitely flagged, because it happens the moment they spot something. Oh, copyright. And so, but I just want you to have the experience of it. I will edit it all out once we load it up onto YouTube. But well, I think we can put it up on Vimeo. Vimeo are kind of easygoing about that, because you know we're not making money off it. All that Facebook cares about is they say, well, you can't monetize your channel if you've done something like that. Well, we're not monetizing our channel, so that's fine. But in any case, you get the feel of how this adds to the whole experience of the play. If you think of it this way, I think these musical interludes that I'm putting into this will make sense. So we're looking at Midsummer Night's Dream. Starts with Theseus telling his loved one, Hippolyta, that they're going to get married.
Now, fair Hippolyta, our nuptial hour draws on apace. 4 happy days bring in another moon. But oh, methinks how slow this old moon wanes. She lingers my desires.
It's rather funny. I mean, this is supposed to be a kid's play, or it's thought of as a children's play, right? The fairies in the woods and the park and all that. And the opening lines is Theseus telling his bride-to-be how, well, frankly, how horny he is. He's saying, 4 days, I can't wait. She lingers my desires. And Hippolyta responds in like kind immediately.
4 days will quickly steep themselves in night. 4 nights will quickly dream away the time. And then the moon, like to a silver bow new bent in heaven, shall behold the night of our solemnities.
And
fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars.
what more do you need, right? You see how it works? If they heard a line from a ballad that they knew, it wouldn't be Tony Bennett and Fly Me to the Moon. It would be whoever singing something, probably Hey Nonny No. But to them, it would have that same effect. It would be, oh, yes, I heard that down the pub. Oh, that's lovely. It's going to be, it almost no more needs to be said. It sets the scene, you get it. Fly Me to the Moon, you just go, oh, I know what this is about. That's the power of music, and that's how Shakespeare was using it in his day. So literally, that's a device. Just, oh, I get it, yeah. You can tell me the rest of the play now. I'm there. And the rest of the play is that, well, I mean, what's happening? Why is he saying 4 happy days, another moon, this old moon, 4 days, 4 nights, the moon like to a silver bow bent in heaven? Why not just be saying to each other, hey, isn't it cool? We're getting married in 4 days. I mean, we know the setup. It's Midsummer Night's Dream. So it's about Midsummer's Eve going over into Midsummer's Day. And that's definitely echoed in the play, because all this madness of love gone wrong is happening on the Revel's night, which will be June 23rd, and then the next day it's all resolved and back to the feast day of St. John the Baptist, and it's all its harmony again. It's very interesting. So if you wanted to plot where this was happening, we know very well. Play is about Midsummer's Night. That's going to be followed by Midsummer's Day. Theseus started the day before here. We know it from the setup and when the lovers elope and go to the forest outside of Athens. So it starts on the 22nd, and he's saying 4 days hence from now we'll be wed. So he's literally mapped it out. He has no need at all, the author, to give us the phases of the moon. What is that about? You could just say 4 days from now. We know the dates. Why is this important to him? If we look at then a calendar that maps out what he's saying, it would look like this. Now, enter the mechanicals. Now, this is a modernized version, and so it's not the same wording used in the play, but the gist is the same, and it's kind of funny the way they do it. This is Peter Quince telling them what play they're going to be performing. These are common folks who want to get a gig. They want to be playing in the wedding. Duke has made an announcement that they'll have a contest to see who's going to be chosen to be the entertainment for on the wedding night. And he says, so they're practicing a play. They're going to be out in the forest practicing it. And the play he chooses is...
Our play is Pyramus and Thisbe.
Oh, very good piece of work.
And so they set off, and they end up in the forest, right? Along with the lovers and along with the fairies and the queen and the lord of the forest. And later, on page 152, a little bit later, Snug asks, does the moon shine that night we play our play? And Bottom says, a calendar. Look in the almanac, find out moonshine, find out is the moon shining that night? Oh, okay. Now, this is interesting. Enter Puck, you see right there. But Puck doesn't say anything. He enters. He's casting a spell onto the scene so that they will answer the way apparently he wants the play to work out, because he doesn't say anything. And Peter Quince says he looks at an almanac, and his almanac says, yes, it doth shine that night. Now, what's going on? Why would you do this? Can you imagine that it's... The Duke starts off the whole play saying in 4 nights' time it'll be a new moon. And Hippolytus says, yeah, like a slim silver bow in heaven. And here's the mechanicals asking, is the moon shining? Yeah, shines that night. Has the author made a dreadful mistake? Or is this very deliberate? Because he doesn't need to do any of this, does he? Just says, oh, June 24th, we'll be in the forest, 23rd, 24th, 26th, they're getting married. That's all he needs. So obviously, this is important, and what's happening is the mechanicals are working off this calendar, Theseus is working off this calendar. Well, Theseus is a god, for God's sake. And he's the Duke of Athens, he's educated, he knows what he's talking about, so he should know. And these other poor guys are just the common folk, and they don't know. And so there's that contrast between the two. So what it's saying is, in 1582, people all over Europe went to bed on Thursday, the 4th of October, and they woke up on Friday, the 15th of October. They just lost 10 days. There were riots in the streets, people complaining, we want our 10 days back, as though it made any difference. But I guess, you skipped a birthday maybe, or it must have been confusing. But of course, that was the transfer over from the old Julian calendar to the new Gregorian calendar. England did not adopt it at the time, but Shakespeare is commenting on it. This is the new age of reason. the new scientific age. We can make calculations astronomically, and that's what's going on here. The mechanicals, they're operating on the old calendar. Theseus is telling us, you got to get with the times, man. This is what's happening. This is the modern stuff. We've got sextants and we've got quadrants and we can measure the stars and we know mathematics and get with it. But still, it sets up this dynamic of, well, is there something else being said within all of this? Because then the moon like to a silver bow, now bent in heaven, is a very clear signal that on this day it's going to be looking like that. Right? So what year? Now, because he's given us this, what year does the calendar look like that? The moon phases they will repeat themselves every 19 years. But the only year that it's going to look exactly like that is a specific year. And here's the clue where this is all going to. Queen Elizabeth was equated with Diana, the moon goddess. And there she is with her crescent moon on her head and the silver bow. They even painted and drew portraits of the two of them to look alike. It was just a common thing. You equate, oh, the queen, she's the goddess, she's Diana, she's the moon. So Shakespeare knows, his audience knows that they're going to be equated, and in the play, well, that position is taken by Titania, isn't it? She's the queen of the fairies. She's the queen in this forest where she talks about the moon all the time, and moonlight and its effects on us and its effects on the seasons. So he's made that connection. Queen Elizabeth, Titania, Diana, moon goddess. That time when that silver bow is going to be there on the wedding night, it only happens in 1 year during the Shakespeare time. It's 1604. 19 years prior to that, there were no plays being performed or written that we know of, and this is the time that exactly 23rd to the 24th, the moons look like that, and Shakespeare has written it to be able to pinpoint the year. Well, of course, that midnight between 23rd and 24th is when Edward de Vere dies. Is he telling us in advance? Many years in advance. Of course, we don't know exactly when it was written. We know we have records of it being performed. Why is he telling us that? Why is he telling us when he's going to disappear? Because that's what happens. He's gone. The cusp of the solstice, June 23rd, 24th, is the plot of this play. That's when it's happening. Isn't that interesting? John the Baptist, he's the patron saint of Freemasons. It's his day, 624. It's the cusp passing over from Gemini into Cancer, 69. Look at that, Royal Arch Masonry, symbol of on the top right there, 69, Cancer. Remember the 6 and the 9 turned up against each other on Sonnet 116 that is written as 119. And so, there's a lot afoot here. What's going on? Now, if I were doing this as a live presentation, I would usually do this joke. I'd do a knock-knock joke. Knock-knock. Audience answers. Who's there? You can answer if you like, but only in the comments. So, knock-knock. Who's there? Of course, I would answer back royal. They would say royal who? I would say royal child. Because that's what this plot is all about. We've established that 17th Earl of Oxford is possibly the writer. Queen Elizabeth is being not necessarily lampooned, but let's say honored in this play as Titania. Oxford signs his name Edward Oxenford. He lets it be known that he's known as E.O. He was born Lord Oxenford, born Lord E.O. Well, Queen Elizabeth, we've already established, is really being referenced as Queen Titania. Who was born Lord E.O.? Oh, well, that's Lord Oberon. He likes his anagrams, doesn't he? Now, is there anything in the play telling us what's really going on here? Well,
A
it's a lot.
lovely boy stolen from an Indian king. She never had so sweet a changeling.
A changeling. A changeling child would be a child that was not convenient in the household into which it was born and had to be changed to another family, brought up somewhere else. Happened a lot in the lives of the monarchs. King Henry VIII is known to have had many bastards waiting in the wings, and of course they couldn't be brought up as in the household. They put them in the household of an aristocrat somewhere. It's a changeling child. It's a piece of the plot in this play that goes nowhere. It's just mentioned, just to mention it, and then it's gone. It's never solved. Just like the MOAI in 12th Night, never solved. It's never solved, but he gives 3 hints about it. It says an Indian king, and the second time the author mentions it, her Indian boy, and the third time the spiced Indian heir. Well, remember, Elizabeth is equated with Diana, the moon goddess, Diane. Is he saying an in Diane king? Her in Diane boy, and the spiced in Diane heir. There's a king in Diane. There's a boy in Diane. He's the heir. It couldn't really be any clearer because we never find out who this Indian king is. But there's a lot going on about it in the back and forth between Oberon and Titania. They're obviously at odds about it. Spiced is interesting. The spiced is an anagram of despice th. We know what th is. Th is I am, the name of God. And despice is Latin for overlooked. It's a very specific word. I am the overlooked in Diane heir. Wow. That's a statement, isn't it? King, boy, heir, secret society of the TH. It's all there. How do they have at it in the play?
And this same progeny of evil comes from our debate, from our dissension. We are their parents and original.
Do you amend it then? It lies in you! Why should Titania cross her Oberon? I do but beg a little changeling boy to be my henchman.
Set your heart at rest. The fairy land buys not the child of me.
Give me that boy!
Oh, it's pretty strong stuff, isn't it? It's more than a kid's play. Give me that boy. You know, he cannot, if you think about it, he can't really be giving the information as to who he is because it's in a play. But he's saying it in a way that will get across. You've got Oberon, born E.O., screaming at Titania I want that boy. Now, if they have had a child, and in Diane King, it would be the king. In Diane, it would be the heir. In Diane, it's a boy. But it never goes anywhere in the play. And we end up wondering, okay, well, what is that about? Now, if it really means this, if it's got this subtle hidden meaning, what's he doing when he's saying, give me that boy? If they have had a love affair, and everything points to that fact, because there's a lot of information that says that they were dating at a certain time, the Queen and young Oxford I'm talking about. And if they had a child, that child could not be acknowledged, of course, because she's got to be the Virgin Queen for political reasons. And that child, here we have Oberon saying, give me that child. And she's saying, nah, the fairy kingdom does not buy that child from me. You can't have him. It's very, very interesting. And so, the answer is that we do know that they were texting each other. In fact, it's known that they were together on Twelfth Night, and that 9 months later Henry Rosalie was born to somebody and grew up in the household as the 3rd Earl of Southampton.
It looks as if we two will never be one. Something must be done.
Now, I just jumped the gun there, so I'm going to go back and play it again for you. Again, putting music into this, one wants to think that there was a certain amount of hints given in the plays that we've lost touch with. They were in different worlds, in other words. She is the Queen. She can't do a thing about this, the virgin thing. She's got to be the Virgin Queen. She has to remain available. She's been courted all over the world, particularly by the Spanish and the French, and she's the most eligible woman on the planet, because anyone who marries her becomes King of England and King of France, and etc., etc., etc. She doesn't want that. She's had enough of that. She's seen her father and what a screwed up life he lived as a result of it, and she's famously said there will be one master in this house. But she's got to play the political game, otherwise we know the Spanish are going to come and invade. The Pope has issued a papal bull to say that she is a whore and fair game to be killed. Go kill her. You'll go to heaven. Because they want to get rid of this Protestant movement. They want to bring Catholicism back to England. It's a very, very important and deep subject. So you can imagine the pain of it. If they are truly in love and they have a child and they want to live a normal life, but they can't live a normal life. She's the Queen. Simple as that. It's good to be the Queen, of course. You can be with anybody you want. You just got to hide it. And she hid it. And she went on progress around subjects with huge hooped skirts from time to time. So figure it out. But they're definitely from two different worlds. De Vere has sired children with at least 3 other women. She can't have it known. And so this is what I imagine would be the song that he would use to communicate this, that they're from different worlds and it's never going to work. They can't be together. So what do you say about that, Ella?
It looks as if we two will never be one. Something must be done.
You like potato?
And you like potato.
You like tomato?
And you like tomato.
Potato?
Potato.
Tomato.
Tomato.
Let's call
But obviously they didn't call the whole thing off, and it is rumoured that they certainly did continue, and the Spanish ambassadors wrote back to Philip of Spain saying so, and it's well known that there's a letter saying Burleigh, William Cecil, winketh at such matters, won't interfere with Her Majesty's personal life, etc., etc. And so many think they had a child, and that child would have been Henry Wriothesley, who was born 9 months after Twelfth Night, on a year when they were known to be together, and put into the home of the Southamptons. Now, there's no proof with a painting, I mean, obviously, but just look at that. Look at the red hair, the eyebrows, the long nose, the long, delicate fingers. Not proof, of course. It's just hard to say that he's not her child. And as I say, he grows up as Henry Wriothesley III, Earl of Southampton. Now, another knock-knock joke I would deliver at this point would be, essentially, the answer would be the fourth T, because remember, we go back to that. What is this all about? These sonnets, all by E. Vere, the fourth T. What is the fourth T? Are there more clues about that? Going back to this, remember the 624, 624, 624 gave us that. Now, a friend of mine, Art Neuendorfer, made a comment and reference at the time about the idea that in the Sonnets 19 grid, if you put it into a 19 grid, he found a triple tau, which is the three T's, and right next to it an inverted tau cross saying De Vere. And that got me very excited. In fact, it's what got me onto this journey in the first place. And I looked then for the similar setups in the gravestone, finding a triple tau next to the name Vere's, and in the monument, triple tau next to the name E. Vere. But this was Neuendorfer's work originally, and he saw that, and then I decided to overlay the triple tau on it, and had noticed that, well, it actually looks as though it's saying here something deeper. Lies here, E. de Vere. I mentioned that to Alexander Waugh at one time, and he sort of took it and ran with it, and made it his own theory about what he thinks is going on. But I really think he's missing the whole picture here, in that it's much deeper, because it's not just E. de Vere lies here. It's essentially, you've got to be looking at this whole fourth T construction. And then in that case, there's a word that leaps out at you. De Vere paternity lies. And that's a totally different thing, isn't it? Lies about the paternity. Paternity of who? There are two letters left. E. de Vere paternity lies. That would be Edward de Vere. Lies about his paternity? Well, there is a theory that he is the first child of the Queen, when she was essentially raped at 14 by Thomas Seymour, and that she may have had a child as a result of that, and it was hidden away as a changeling child. But it could be H. de Vere paternity lies, the child that de Vere and the Queen ostensibly had. The paternity had to be lied about in either case, and there it is in a pure fourth T construction, triple tau with an inverted tau cross, the fourth T. So the fourth T is Edward de Vere, because that's very, very clear from the naming. But you know what? The 32nd degree, as I showed you at the beginning, and now it begins to make sense, right? 32nd degree, when you add that inverted tau cross to the triple tau, it's known as the Master of the Royal Secret. So is Henry the Royal Secret? Knock, knock. Who's there? Anubis.
Our play is Pyramus and Thisbe.
Anubis. Why is this play the play that they're rehearsing that's going to be at the end of the play? So it's the play within the play. I mean, just the name of it, it's a story that's known, about Pyramus and Thisbe, and they play it out to great comic effect at the end. But there is no play. That's just made up by Shakespeare. And yet the name itself, you think, well, I wonder if pyramid is in there. Can you make? Yeah, you can. You can make pyramid. And since this is all about literally the Great Pyramid, which would be the ultimate pyramid, the TH pyramid, the I am that I am pyramid, what's left? Anubis. Anubis was the Egyptian god associated with mummification. He embalmed Osiris after he was killed by Set in the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, so the myth goes. But look, what does the name Anubis mean? In ancient Egyptian, it means royal child, master of secrets. And that's a perfect anagram of Pyramus and Thisbe. Master of the royal secret, 32nd degree, 4th T, and Anubis is the royal child and master of secrets. Do you think he's really trying to tell us something with all of this? I think so. There is a page number in the first folio, published in 1623, where actually that's the first time we ever see Twelfth Night published. So 1623, who knows when it was written? Maybe in the early 1590s. He's predicting in Midsummer Night's Dream, the year 1604, at the cusp of June 23rd, 24th, when he's going to die, by telling us the moon phases. In Twelfth Night, he's telling us something else that's very, very significant, a way to solve the whole clues to get into this puzzle. And it's on page 264, because there's no page 624 in the folio, and there's no page 426, because there's about 1,000 pages, but it's comedies, histories, and tragedies, and there's about 300 and so pages of each. And then they start again. But there are, well over 29, 30 wrong page numbers in the first folio. And this is one of them on page 264, in which, right at the top, it says, no man must know. No man must know. What follows? The number's altered. No man must know. And what follows is the number 273. I mean, it's just clear as day. Oh, the numbers have been altered, but no man must know. Shh. It's a clue. Okay, what's happening on that page? Well, it's where Malvolio has been tricked by those in the household of Olivia who think he's just, what would be a polite word to say it, an arse. He's a party pooper. They want to drink and party and have cake and ales, says Sir Toby Belch. Malvolio doesn't want to have any of it. He wants to run a tight household. And so they trick him. And they drop this letter down in his pathway where they know he's going to go, and he finds the letter and he looks around and he opens it and he thinks that, oh, it's something to do with him. MOAI. These letters are in my name. It's an obvious code. I mean, it is a code. We've got a play within a play. We've got a code within a code. There's a code in the play, and he actually tries to solve it in this scene when he's saying these letters are in my name, but they're in the wrong order, etc., etc., etc. But it's never solved in the play. Just like we never find out who the Indian king or the Indian boy or the Indian heir is in Midsummer Night's Dream. It's just dropped in as a little, breadcrumbs in the forest. Are you paying attention? like the moon phases that don't need to be there, but if you really look into it and figure out what I'm saying, you'll find a certain year at a certain date, and it happens to be the date that I am going to die, disappear on 624, the perfect opposite balance of 426. There's a lot going on here. This is a clever guy. He's no slouch. He's, we know he's a great writer, but this is on a whole other level. MOAI is never solved in the play. It's never solved at all. He anguishes over it for about half a page, and it's quite a long half a page too. He's going, well, we've seen this in the fun promo I made.
MOAI doth sway my life.
Yeah, and then down here.
If this fall into thy hand, revolve.
This is the great Sir Alec Guinness. What are you going to do with a line like that? What are you going to do with a line like that? It's just, what can the actor do? But to revolve. He's going to spin around 360 degrees because he doesn't know it's a code that must be solved. I don't think we want to have that playing right now. There you go. It's something that it doesn't have to be thought too deeply about. It's not solved in the play. So why put it in? Oh, because the audience is supposed to solve it, not the characters in the play. He drops that in there. If this fall into thy hand, revolve. Now, I will mention, and I have mentioned before, but I will not elaborate deeply on it, but what it is this in Freemasonry, again, as far as I've been able to research. If somebody knows better, please fill me in. But I found one book by Henry Waldwin Percival called Thinking and Destiny, 900-page book by a Grand Master who presumably just decided, I'm going to let it all hang out. Maybe he's dying of cancer, and I don't know. Nobody knows. But he decided to reveal many secrets that you're not supposed to reveal. So you normally wouldn't be able to find this. It's the only one place I've ever found an answer to what is MOAI. Now, he doesn't know it's related to MOAI. He just knows the most secret, sacred password of the Freemasons is IAOM. And he tells you at the very end of the book that it is delivered to the initiates on the journey as they go through the various steps of Freemasonry, and they get to a certain level and they're given a letter, and it's M. And then they might be a good Freemason for another 8 years or so, and they're given another letter, right? And it's O. And then after more progress on the path, they're given A. And according to him, in this book, only at the very end, if you are of such a high rank within the organization and they deem you special enough, by invitation, you are invited to go to the 33rd degree level, and then you're given I. The missing I. Think of all those poor Freemasons who don't get to the 33rd level. They never get the I. It's missing. But they're given the I. And they think, I got it. It's a word. It's Moai. Is it Moai? Is it those stone edifices on Easter Island? I don't think so. It's just a nice, happy little coincidence, though. No, it's... They are then told it's not a word. It's to be sounded, and it's backwards. You've been given everything backwards. It's really IAOM. We gave you MOAI. As I say, Henry Waldwin Percival doesn't make the connection to Twelfth Night. He seems oblivious about it. But here's Shakespeare in Twelfth Night, in a comedy scene, playing it for yucks, giving you MOAI and then saying, well, if this fall into thy hand, revolve. I don't know. I just imagine those who were in this secret society standing in the wings going, that bloody bastard, he's giving away our secret. Well, he hasn't given it away. If he's a member, he's sworn an oath to secrecy. He hasn't given it away. He's just said it backwards and then said revolve. And then a few lines later, he says be opposite, which happens to be the whole way that you solve the whole shebang. Enochian tables, right? Be opposite, and then revolve, and then turn it around again. It's telling you. But it's also telling you the secret of this thing. So one of the followers on our site and on following on podcasts, Smile a While. I don't know your name in life. Maybe it's Smile a While. Maybe you were actually named Smile. But anyway, I think it's a she. She asks, will you please tell us what that technique is? Because I've said in past presentations. And unfortunately, I can't. I mean, I need to just explain. It's IAOM, and they say this is a what's called in Vedic philosophy a pranayama technique. It's a breathing technique for moving the energy up and down the spine whilst sounding these letters, not as a word, but as sounds. And that's really all I can say. It's very similar to a technique that a lot of people do, and I do in a certain organization. But it's not my job to be proselytizing. I'm not saying, oh, go to that organization and get that technique. But in any case, if it was that, I couldn't give it to you because I'm not the guru, and the guru gives it as a sacred technique. But you can find it. I would say the one that I do is called Kriya Yoga, but there are many, and there are various enlightened masters who have come to show us the way. And so, just wanted to answer that question from Smile. It's not that it's a secret and it can't be given. It's in order to keep it pure, so that when you do get it from source, you get it in its purest form, and there can be no mistaking. You know that telephone game you play as a kid? Say it and say it and say it and say it. By the time it's gone around, it's completely different. You know, so if everybody was giving it out, it would end up completely diluted and not work. Bottom line is, it's a pranayama technique for bringing your energy up here and entering a higher state of consciousness. That's what it is. And he's making a joke out of it, saying, MOAI, the sway of my life. Now, look where it's going, though. So you end up with, if this fall into thy hand, MOAI, turns out, turn it around, gives you what I've just told you about. Now, it turns out, this is in the whole, more than half a page in which he's riffing on this. This is the only part that is italicized, this line. And if you count the characters, it's 28 characters, but if you also then include the punctuation, 2 dots colon, which are one of Dee's favorite devices to give you 2 characters, you add them, it's 32. So it's 28 characters and then 32 including the punctuation, 28, 32. Didn't we see that somewhere else before on the sonnets? Dedication? Yeah, we did. And it's the Knight of the Sun and the Master of the Royal Secret. Knight of the Sun. Now, one other piece of background information on this is that Edward de Vere is a favorite of the Queen when he's 21 years old, right? He's new at court. He's apparently a very fancy dancer, a bit of a swordsman, a bit of a athlete, a bit of a everything, a bit of a poet, a bit of a... In other words, he's the Queen's favorite. And everybody's writing about it, including the Spanish ambassador and then wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All right. So he's a favorite of the Queen. And they have this thing called the tilts. And if you've ever been to a Renaissance fair, you know it's tilts are, I don't know, 200 yards long, maybe longer, and they knight in armor, on a horse, carrying a lance, charging at each other. Harmless fun. Try to knock your opponent off the horse with a suit of armor on. Henry VIII almost died in one once. He was very fond of doing the tilts, but he actually came very close to a fatal accident. So they supposedly, they don't fight to the death, but they have these contests. And in 1571, De Vere, I should check that. I'm not absolutely sure of the first date. I think it was 10 years prior to the one that I'm going to talk about. 1571, when he's only 21 years old. He enters the lists and he's in this tournament and he wins a whole load of stuff. And he's very good. And he's also the Queen's favourite and everybody at court knows it. So obviously he's making a lot of enemies. Right? Nobody likes somebody that's good at everything. Handsome bastard. And clever, and let me show you some poetry I've written, Your Madge. So he's got a lot of enemies. It must be a snake pit in Buckingham Palace today. I'm sure it is. It's just So he wins all this stuff. Everybody's thinking, oh, he's the guy to beat. So in 1581 now, he's now 31 years old. 1581, they're going to have another tournament. And everyone wants to get him. Christopher Hatton and Arundel and others that are known to be there, they've all got their various colours in the contest. The green knight, the blue knight, the white knight, the yellow knight, the black knight. De Vere, since he's the defending champion, he's the gold knight. And I just think this would be the most stunning scene in any movie about the true life story of the true Shakespeare. My God, what a scene. The morning of the tilts, they're all at one end, the green, red, blue knight, etc., all want to get this guy. He's the gold knight. And at the other end, way down there, when the sun comes up, they see this enormous bay tree that normally would be just, full of just beautiful brown trunk and green leaves. It's gold. It's shimmering, bright gold. It's not that he had his servants and his people the night before paint it gold. Oh no. This is an insight into the guy. It's covered in gold leaf. Real gold. In fact, it's recorded that at the end of the match, when it was all over and it's time to break down all the barriers and stuff, the crowd stampeded to tear off the gold off this tree. All the trunk, all the branches, all the leaves are covered in gold leaf. Wrap your head around that. Yes, he's the wealthiest nobleman in the land, but my God. He knows how to play his role. Do you remember a boxer named Muhammad Ali? One of the most revered sportsmen in all of sport, right? Because he was a wonderful philanthropist and a great, big-hearted person. But when he was a young man, his name was Cassius Clay. And he was so confident in himself that anytime he came out to fight an opponent, he was a world heavyweight champion. When he came out, before he was the champion, he would come out and he would always give this corny, awful poetry. And he would predict when he would knock his opponent unconscious. I will knock you out in 3. I will win in 7. I will win in 9. Cassius Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali, adopted the faith of Islam, and became the world-famous Muhammad Ali, world champion boxer. He used to say, I am the greatest, because he knew he was. And pretty. Most boxers aren't pretty. He used to say, I'm so pretty. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He danced in the ring. He was it. I just think of this is De Vere. De Vere was that. He was Muhammad Ali saying, come and get me, because I am the greatest. He's you're looking to this end of the tilts, and it's a gold tree. Shimmering gold like only real gold can, and they must the knights at the other end must have been going, oh my God. And there's a tent out of which he is going to emerge, of course, where he's getting ready. But first he sends a page out to the center of the entire tilt to deliver a message to the Queen. And it's a poem that he has written for the Queen. And it is announcing his undying love for her and his undying fealty to her as a knight who would protect her. He says, I would die on the blade of a sword 1,000 times for your majesty. And you know what he calls this poem? He calls it The Knight of the Tree of the Sun. And you're looking at it. You're looking down there. There's the Tree of the Sun. Gold, shimmering. And he sends out this page to deliver this message to Her Majesty. Not a dry eye in the house, I'm sure. Well, probably the guys who want to kill him. They're not crying. Everybody else is very touched by it, I'm sure. And it's called The Knight of the Tree of the Sun. And when he comes out of this gold tent under a gold tree on a gold caparisoned horse, wearing gold armor and a gold lance and a gold breastplate and gold visor, do you think that's not saying, you want a piece of me? Uh-huh. Come and get it. That's before the contest starts. There's a word for it. I won't say it on the air. You've got to admire it. And yes, he won every contest. So they must have hated him even more. But he probably just scared the shit out of them. Really, he just goes, oh my God, what is this? And he comes barreling down on his gold, and he wins everything. That's De Vere. That's one of the Shakespeares, if not the main one. All right. This is what he writes. Oxford's Knight of the Tree of the Sun. Remember, level 28 is called the Knight of the Sun. This is called the Knight of the Tree of the Sun. And part of it, he says, he was troubled when every mote fell in his eye in the day, and every ant disquieted him in the night, where if the wind blew, he had nothing to shield him but head and shoulders. If the sun blazed, he could find the shadow of nothing but himself. He's talking about the trials and tribulations that he goes through before he finds this tree and his life's calling, and to be the knight who will come back 1,000 times to defend the honor of the queen that he loves. It breaks your heart, right? Well, look what he writes, or look what somebody writes, and then see if you don't think it's the same person. Sonnet 28. He writes, when day's oppression is not eased by night, but day by night, and night by day oppressed. But day doth daily draw my sorrows longer, and night doth nightly make grief's strength seem stronger. Same antithesis, day and night and oppression, and it's the same thing. Now look at Sonnet 32. In Sonnet 32, a couple of lines say, a dearer birth than this his love had brought, to march in ranks of better equipage. Equipage is a word we don't use today. It means a retinue as of a noble or royal personage. In other words, a dearer birth than this his love had brought. He should have been brought up in a more noble and royal ranks. It's saying that whoever he's writing about in this sonnet is really royal but not recognized for it. And it's the master of the royal secret is level 32, and this is Sonnet 32. Now, How does this all go together with this statement? If this fall into thy hand, revolve. After all, it's not a very... doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? If this fall into thy hand, revolve. It's... what does that mean even? Except that we know now it's clues about how you solve this whole question, but in terms of the play itself, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not even a very poetic and clever way of saying it. If this fall, if this, you know, land in your hand, if this fall into thy hand, revolve. Revolve what? But of course, it's because it's a code. Now, what are we looking for? I mean, what is this all about? It's in the play that is directing us to look at the sonnets that are talking about the fourth T. And so right away I can see that, there's the fourth T. I see the word solve, I see the fourth T, and I see the word finally. Finally. Solve the fourth T, finally. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, and what's left is 7 and hand, and that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense until you realize that it might be referring to Henry VII, or it might be, if this fall, if those eyes kind of fall to the side a little, it makes the letters HW, and that's Henry Wriothesley. But the and, again, it's incomplete. Here's Henry Wriothesley in the Tower during the time that he was incarcerated and on death row awaiting execution for his part in the Essex Rebellion, which was supposedly trying to overcome the Queen. But you know, it was trumped up charges, and he was kept there, and he was held in the Tower, and many of the others, including Essex, were executed for it, hung, drawn, and quartered, or beheaded. Wriothesley was not. Wriothesley was held there on death row. Any day he could be executed. People were actually lining up outside, waiting to see him be on the chopping block. And it never happened. Because he was a hostage, because Cecil wanted his own power play, and he wanted James on the throne when the Queen died. And if he had Wriothesley there on death row, he could bend the people to his will. Because if he were the son of the Queen, and if he were the son of De Vere, and if certain things had to be not known, my deeds must not be shown, then that's the perfect way to get Oxford to hide the fact that this was a royal scandal, and we can't let the world know that the Queen and you have a child. Anyway, you can say that this is all speculation, but based on the information that I've just given you today about Titania and Lord Oberon and the changeling child and the Indian king and Indian boy and Indian heir and everything else, where is this going? Because it doesn't make sense just Henry Wriothesley or W.H., which is what he became known as once he was in the Tower, because before he was Henry Wriothesley, 3rd Earl of Southampton, with lands and titles and lots of moolah. And now he's on death row, and he's just plain Mr. Wriothesley H. And that's in the sonnet's dedication. He's just Mr. W.H., but of course that's where the whole thing resides, isn't it? That's what gives us these sonnets, all by E. Vere, the fourth T, and the fourth T is what this is saying. This solves it. Solve the fourth T finally. Well, how? How can WH and, I mean, it's incomplete. And WH? What and WH? WH and what? There's not enough letters. There's nothing else to make out of it, except that we know for sure it's to do with the 28th and the 32nd levels. Finally solve the fourth T. What can that possibly be other than a clever use of the idea of the Night of the Sun, which is 28, the Night of the Tree of the Sun, which was Oxford's message to the Queen. And if you think of it as sun, then it's the night of the the tree of the sun. The family tree. He's making a plea to her there at the tilts. I am the knight of the tree of the tree of the sun. The family tree, the sun that we have, which I would die 1,000 times to protect. And master of the royal secret is the 32 part. And so, if the answer is all here, let's go back to just remind ourselves about the paternity lies about both of them, and the master of the royal secret, remember? So it's about the paternity. It's, when he was Henry Wriothesley, had he become the king, he would have been the last king of the Tudor dynasty. Henry VII was the beginning of the Tudor dynasty. Henry W would be the end of the Tudor dynasty. And this is present in all the codes. It's all about antithesis. It's all about beginning and end. Alpha, Omega. I am the Aleph, the Tav, the Et. Right? In other parts of the code, you see it everywhere. Balancing of opposites. 624, 426, MOAI, IAOM. Beginning and end. That which cannot be stated is the Et, the particle in Hebrew that is translated from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and it comes out as nothing. It's invisible. The missing I, the missing one, he has to disappear. That's why he's only given us these letters. He has disappeared. Henry Wriothesley has. There's only Henry VII, the beginning of the Tudor dynasty, and the Tudor dynasty is going to end. In fact, by the time this is written, of course, it's already over. He's writing its obituary, because this is in Twelfth Night, and Twelfth Night isn't even published till 1623. This has all gone down 20 years before. He's got plenty of time to work this all out and make it perfect. So it's really both. Henry VII and Henry Wriothesley, the beginning of the Tudor dynasty and the end of the Tudor dynasty, finally solve the fourth T. And so, it's really why you have to sing along with me.
M-O-A-I, is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I, M-O-A-I,
Everybody!
M-O-A-I, is I-A-O-M, not M-O-A-I. You say
Malvolio. Oh.
Sweet lady.
I wish I could show you all of that. That is the inimitable Mark Rylance as Olivia and Stephen Fry as Malvolio in the all-male production of Twelfth Night put on at the Globe. You know, there's so much depth to all this work, and yes, people say, you know, well, we have that. We got that. Isn't that enough? You know, we got the plays, we got the poems. I'd liken it to that moment in The Wizard of Oz, you know, where it goes from black and white and small screen to Technicolor and CinemaScope. It's just, once you know the story behind it, once you know these little anecdotes that are going on that can enliven it, you go, oh, he's talking about that. Oh my God, he did that. And the depth of it, the massive, incredible depth of what has been put into these works on a whole other level that we haven't really suspected yet. Because honestly, it's not just about codes, it's about a scripture. It's a scripture of kind. Because this telling you, this whole idea of balance of opposites is literally, as I say, further down here, he says, be opposite. If this fall into the hand, revolve and be opposite. That's exactly how he's telling us to solve the whole thing. The Enochian tables of John Dee. There's right down in this corner here. There's an IAOM cross of angels' names, which when you revolve it and be opposite it, it lands right here at, telling you to read the diary, at the diary of John. If you read his diary, this is how he tells you to solve the whole thing with the 624 characters that were delivered to him by angels on 624 in Krakow, which when you then understand means the dedication to the sonnets and the monument inscription and the letters and the gravestone, but all the letters and the punctuation, right? He's always counting numbers. Adds up to 624. Of course it does, which means you've got to put it into the Enochian tables. You line the grids up. Key to the treasure, clavis ad thesaurus is the double T, is Thomas Thorpe, is TH, TH is TH, TH in the gravestone is TH, 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 TH in the monument is the THs. That's it. You line up the double T's, you put the T's point to the Enochian tables to give you a message. But then you have to be opposite it and send the T's from the Enochian tables back to this text that has been given by the sonnets, dedication, gravestone, and monument. Gives you another message. Then you have to revolve, right? He tells you the whole thing. And then you revolve it, and then the T's point to other letters here. Gives you message 3. Then you be opposite again and send it across here. And all of that gives you this message that tells you, hey, guess what? It's in the altar stone. Living page. There you go. Your stigmata. I have hewn, desiderata. I've cut into stone what I want you to know. It's all there in the Holy of Holies. And so, Saint's cavity is there. It should be this big, but when we scanned it, it ends up looking like this.
A cavity, 6.5 foot long. Seven inches deep, 12 to 30 inches wide. It's 250 times the size it's supposed to be. You don't cut a hole this big, this big, into solid marble unless you're going to put something this big into it.
And then you only have to look at it. There's the scientific proof. All these layers of differing densities, differing colors within the large blue gaping hole. It's full of something. Do you want to know what it's full of? Do you want to know what's in there? Please go to our website, tobeornottobe.org, and vote. Yeah, I want to know what Shakespeare left for posterity. Or no, I'm not interested. Let's leave it another 400 years. It's right there, folks. It's right there. Whether you like it or not, it's the greatest mystery. It's the biggest disappearing act ever. Hey, here's the White House to explain it to you.
Get over it.
And so, I am enjoying immensely doing these podcasts. I love being able to communicate it. You are being so wonderful, giving all your feedback. Some of the testimonials we're receiving are just very, very heartwarming. Alejandro is going to put a few up on screen to us for us to see right now. So if you have any testimonials to send in, we appreciate them. We read them all, and some of them we put up on the website to encourage others to do the same. If you have any questions, same thing. You can write to us. You can communicate that way, or you can send it to contact@tobeornottobe.org, and that way you can write a whole epistle if you wish, and a whole lengthy explanation of what's on your mind. So, do we have any questions that have been sent in during this podcast. So let's make this a Q&A session at long last. Anything come through? Yeah, we got a few. We got from a Mr. Michael Delahoyd. Now, where do I know that name from? Those of you who saw the premiere podcast will know this is the esteemed Professor Michael Delahoyd. How do we know Oxford and Elizabeth were together on Twelfth Night before Southampton's birth? Yeah, well, it's well, the short answer to that is we don't exactly know. I think you've stumped me, actually, is what I'm trying to say. Damn. Where did we get that from? I mean, Michael, you probably know I've forgotten more things than I've found. So where is it? Because I've been saying that for years, that it's documented somewhere that they were together on that night. And I know it's somewhere. I'm going to have to look back into my notes. So on hold on that. Michael is writing a book on Twelfth Night, by the way, and so he probably wants a little bit of information as to how we know that. Good question, Michael. I'm going to check back into my notes because, again, I hate to say anything if I can't absolutely prove it, but I know it's somewhere in the records, so I've got to look that up. Colleen Koyopil, what's the name of the author and the Freemason book with, she means IAOM. The author's name is Harold Waldwin Percival, and the book is called Thinking and Destiny. And you might want to free up a couple of weeks before Christmas to read it. It's a 900-page book, and you only get the answer at the very end. Oh, of course, you could cheat, but I'm just saying, I don't think you'd feel very good, would you? Just going straight to the back? Or are you one of those people who do that? Go to the end of the book first, just to see how it ends. Well, that's the book. Alan Armstrong, not a question but a pertinent comment. There are 24 wrong page numbers in every printing of the first folio. They are all intentional. Yes, I think there are more than 24. It depends on how you document them. I've covered them all, and so sometimes you'll get to a place like the very, very first one. The very first wrong number, it goes from 47, 48, 49. Obviously, it should be 50, but it's 58. And then it goes to 51, and then 52. So it catches up on itself. That's one kind of wrong page number. Other times you get wrong page numbers where it never recalibrates. It'll skip a couple of page numbers. Or in Hamlet, it skips 100 page numbers at 156. Should go to 157. It goes to 257. There's other things like in Midsummer Night's Dream where they're in the forest and Bottom has just fallen under the spell of thinking he doesn't know he's got an ass's head on, and Titania has fallen in love with him because of the love juice in her eyes, and he's the first thing she sees. But she says, out of this forest do not desire to go, I think is, do not desire or do not try to go. Desire, I think. Out of this forest. Well, of course, if you're on page 152 and you want to get to page 153, that would be the pinnacle of the pyramid, wouldn't it? That would be it. You're there. 153 is resurrection. There's no 153. Down at the page, bottom page 152. Out of this forest do not desire to go. This forest of Maya. And the next page, you've fallen back down. It's gone back to 151. And there is no 153. It never catches up and it skips again. And others skip and then jump back and skip and so it's it's hard to specify specifically exactly how many wrong numbers there are because there's different types of wrong numbers, but a good point. Michael Delahoyd again. Well, maybe just as a preview of a potential future podcast, but can you mention a couple of other significant examples of wrong pagination in the first folio? Oh, well, I just did. There you go. I answered even before I saw the question. So, that's, oh, I think we're seeing something else on the screen. More questions? No? Okay. So we're going to take now 2 weeks off. As you noticed, we did one with no hiatus, just 1 week. I would like to make these ultimately be every week. And we're going to get into that. It's a steep learning curve on the technical side. Alejandro has been doing a sterling job, as have our three other members who are helping, Melanie and Ryan Sears and Filiberto. It's a steep hill to climb because just doing a Zoom call just wasn't cutting it on our first two. It just wasn't happening. You know, you can't make a nice professional show that way. Plus, the sound is awful. The sound is awful on Zoom. So even now when we're doing a guest one where we have a guest on, even though they're on Zoom, we are taking the feed and sending it all through this Wirecast gear that Alejandro has had to learn in a very short space of time, and that makes it perfect. It all broadcasts perfectly. Next step is going to be that we're going to be broadcasting direct, not just on Facebook, because Facebook has its own problems, as everyone knows, and as I just mentioned about the time stamping, etc. Plus, lots of people don't want to be working on Facebook. They don't want to be on Facebook. They just wait to view it when it has been archived on our website or on YouTube. So next step is we're going to be broadcasting live to YouTube at the same time, and also broadcasting live to Instagram at the same time. And all that's possible with this, but it's a steep learning curve. Come the new year, we're going to be we're going to be bringing you some very, very, what I think is very exciting news. But all in good time. I thank you all because you've been very, very patient with me, particularly for some of you who have been waiting for this for, I don't know, 6-7 years, and there was not a peep out of me because I was finding other stuff, you know, and I said, oh, there's news coming, and then there's a second book coming, a third book coming, and all of them they're done, they're ready, they're on hold because we're wanting to turn them into something else. We wanted to turn them into a game, into an app, and we think it would be best to launch that first. But again, that's another steep learning curve. And as far as all of that's concerned, it's wide open. There are, all I can say at this point is a lot of really, really exciting discoveries coming down the pike, which I will be able to announce in the new year. And so, we have another question. Kristen Edwards. Question. The sonnets then are revealing the authorship of a Rosicrucian group, ? De Vere, Bacon, etc. Yes, I do believe so. And the displaced heir of Queen Elizabeth and De Vere. Yes. But you mentioned that it's a scripture. The missing eye or eye references tied to Great Pyramid's missing capstone. Is this the more profound meaning they were imparting, that humanity needs to cultivate our inner eye, heart, throat, trinity to reach a golden age? Kristen, you've just summed it up perfectly. Yeah, absolutely, that's what they're doing. I don't have the least doubt about it. You know, Bacon wrote of the New Atlantis, about the great work. Dee was certainly the suspected Grand Master of the Rosicrucians, and then Bacon was following on from him when Dee left, or honestly, I'm not even sure that I can hang my hat on that anymore, that Dee died in 1608 or 1609, because there are other things cropping up now all the time. Very, very exciting things. One thing I will just tease you with, and I will be giving a presentation about it in the new year for sure. People have suspected or questioned for some time, did Shakespeare, whoever Shakespeare was, did Shakespeare translate the New Testament of the New King James Version of the Bible? All right? You've all heard of this Psalm 46. 46th word from the beginning is shake. The 46th word from the end is spear. That's in Psalm 46 in the King James Bible. Well, and what would that be? Was that just a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink left there? I have found the most stunning, and I can say absolute proof that yes, Shakespeare translated the King James Bible. And this is so new, I haven't finished the presentation of it yet, but that's coming in the new year. And it goes even deeper than that. And so what's coming down the pike is 2 weeks from today, I will be inviting another very, very special guest, my dear friend, Robin Davis, who I work with Robert Edward Grant at Crown Sterling. She's an intuitive, a psychic, a brilliant mind in terms of social media promotion. She's starting her own network called Mothership Alliance. She's going to be teaching us about her own sources and guides, and telling her whole journey as to how she got into the work that she's doing. We've known each other since the beginning of my journey on this. She's involved with the Knights Templar. She's a fascinating woman, brilliant mind, and she's on 2 weeks from today. So please tune in and bar out for that. Then we'll have a couple of weeks off for Christmas and New Year for sure. And then in the new year, we're going to really ramp it up tremendously with a lot of big announcements. The first of which is, as I just said, about the King James Bible. January 10th, we will have Peter Bull, my new friend in Dubai, who teaches English there, but he's from England originally. And he has opened my mind to Gematria in a way that I never suspected. I have another friend, Moshe, who is also brilliant at the Gematria, and I would love to invite him on at some point, because he has made some key discoveries which, frankly, are beyond me. I mean, I'm looking at that, and I just don't understand it. And so he and I had talked a bit in the past, but honestly, it had sort of just glazed over, because if you don't fully understand something, you can't really grok it and you can't get into it. That's why it's very important to step by step keep on reminding people of these things, do recaps, because I forget. I've been on it 16 to 17 years, and I know some of it very, very, very deeply, like the back of my hand. Then other things like what Michael Delahoy just brought up. How do we know about that date, 12th night? I know it's somewhere in my notes. I'll find it. I will bring it to you. But you I often joke, I've forgotten more than I remember about what I've discovered. So Moshe has got some phenomenal stuff, which is all to do with the same aspect of it that Peter Bull will be talking on, Gematria. It turns out there is, if it's even possible to wrap your mind around this, the enormity of these codes that I'm showing you here, and how perfectly precision grafted they are into each other with this perfect antithesis all the time. And then at another level altogether, there's the Gematria meaning behind it, the value of the letters that go into the words in Hebrew that give another pure mathematical meaning. It really is almost mind-boggling that this is why I am absolutely convinced, after 16 to 17 years of really being an Oxfordian, I can no longer ignore the fact that I see bacon coats everywhere. My dear friend Peter Dawkins in England, I would love to invite him on. He's the world's leading expert on Sir Francis Bacon. And so there's a lot coming. Thank you for being involved. Thank you for all of your comments and testimonials and for your questions. I try to answer them all. It's my pleasure to be bringing this deep information to you. See you in a couple of weeks' time. Tune in and Bard out. Thank you.